the Jet Setting Wealth Advisory Podcast, where your financial journey takes flight with David T.U. As an airline pilot and financial expert, David merges the aviation industry and wealth management to help you navigate today's complex financial skies. Each episode features expert insight, blending personal stories with essential financial strategies. We ask that you fasten your seatbelts and sit back as we prepare for takeoff. Our destination, your financial empowerment.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Jet Setting Wealth Advisory, where we help you navigate your financial future with clarity and confidence. I'm your host, David T.U., wealth advisor, active airline pilot, and founder of the DTY Wealth Planning Solutions practice. Each week, we bring you conversations with industry leaders and real-world experts who understand that building wealth isn't just about numbers. It's about strategy, mindset, and the journey itself. Today, we are joined by Tari Vickery, a seasoned financial professional with over 25 years of experience managing every aspect of her clients' financial lives, from accounting and bill payment to collaborating with managers, wealth managers, and estate attorneys and insurance specialists. With a sociology degree from Stanford and a deeply personal understanding of financial transformation, Tari brings a unique and powerful perspective to the emotional side of money. Her work blends practical expertise with genuine empathy, something we don't see that much of in this industry. And she helps individuals and families navigate not just their finance, but the feelings and decisions that are behind them. This is going to be very impactful and very meaningful insight conversation. Let's get started. So first and foremost, welcome, Tari, to the show.
Thank you, David. I'm so excited to be with you today.
Fantastic. So let's talk about this. You work with inspired, but a very personal moment involving a family during the financial crisis with people and family members. Can you share some stories and how that has shaped your career?
Yes, it's not only crisis, it's their everyday finances as well.
Okay.
I have had such fun working particularly with my three-generation families, where I'm able to see the consequences of how the financial ideas flow from one generation to the next.
Sure.
My background is family business. I grew up in family business where my grandparents had a home building business. My parents had a sign business. My husband and I had a wholesale carpet business for 10 years. And so I come at this from the business perspective. And I'm able to use all of that experience to understand and have empathy and compassion for people and their own struggles with money.
That's really, really awesome. I don't think the empathy of the emotions, especially when it deals with money, is most of the time really not talked about. And that is, I think, very compelling. And obviously it drives people to their decision-making process based on their emotions. So you spent decades helping people manage not just their finance, but their relationship with money. When did you realize that money is more emotional than logical?
When I was about 4 years old.
Oh, okay. All right.
Growing up with a mom who was 19 when I was born.
Okay.
And I had a 4-year-old brother.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I realized from a very young age that money was the lens through which my mother looked at everything, because she had to. She was a single mom. And as a result of that, and also growing up in the family business world where it's kind of feast or famine a lot of times.
Sure.
And that all helped me understand the emotional side of money from a very personal and realistic standpoint.
So let's talk about that. You wrote a book about this, which is called The Emotional Side of Money. What led you to write this book, and what did you hope to achieve with readers after them reading it? What do you want them to take away from this book?
Thank you for that question. What I hope they will achieve is a sense of calm and a belief that they can have a different relationship with their money. It is very much written for people for whom thinking about finances is anxiety producing. I've had clients tell me it makes their stomach hurt, it makes their head hurt, that there is a physiological response for so many people when it comes to even opening mail that has bills in it,
Wow.
and yet they have the money to pay the bills. Those who don't have the money to pay the bills, that's a completely different emotional piece, of course.
Sure.
But for the people who have the money and still won't open their mail because they don't want to have to face thinking about money. I've had some clients who won't open their monthly financial reports that they want in snail mail, and so I mail to them. Same
Oh,
thing.
wow.
They just don't want they don't want it in their face, and they don't want to have to think about it, and they don't want to have to hurt about it.
I see.
So what I hope my readers and listeners will
Mhm.
get out of it is understanding, first and foremost, you are not alone. I
Okay.
have yet to talk to a person who doesn't think they're the only one who has this kind of reaction and response to money. And that's just not the case. Folks who have this are not alone. And there's a
Mhm.
way through this thicket to get to the other side, from scarcity, if that's the issue, to abundance.
Okay. Wow. So you talk about the idea of a money story. What is that, and how does it generate, and how was it formed?
It is formed from sitting at the knee of your parents.
Okay.
Parents teach kids about money, whether they do it intentionally or whether the kids are listening to arguments or are listening to parents having different opinions of how money should be spent.
Mhm.
Or maybe it's just an undercurrent. Maybe parents have made a decision that they will not discuss money with their children or in front of their children. And yet there's a sense that kids are so intuitive and so smart, and they
They
feel
are.
that energy in the household.
Okay. So I should say, how do childhood experiences like what you're talking about quietly shape the way we make financial decisions as we become adults and ultimately as adults?
That's an interesting question because I work with so many families and with the kids of so many families. And consequently, I've had the advantage of seeing how the kids that grew up in the very same household with the very same parents,
Mhm.
maybe very close in ages, have such different responses and reactions to money.
Mhm.
So I think some of it is absolutely hardwired. I've had a family of three young boys where their ages were about 2 years apart. So, very close proximity in terms of the experiences they've grown up with at home. And one of them is really frugal and just loves watching his bank account grow.
Mhm.
And another one always is down to a dollar or 50 cents by the time he gets his next week's allowance.
Oh, wow.
And another one who is just on top of his money. He knows what he's got in his account all the time, and he's very aware. And I'd call him kind of middle of the road of these three kids. But, here were three kids who grew up with the same parents, with the same understanding, and yet they have such different feelings about money.
Okay. So people, I'm sure you've heard, I'm really bad with money.
Oh my
What do they
goodness, yes.
really mean when they say that?
They mean it scares them.
Okay.
They might mean they don't trust themselves to make good decisions.
I see. Hmm.
They likely mean they don't think they manage their money well.
Hmm.
They might mean they've gotten those messages from other people, particularly parents.
Hmm.
So they could mean a number of different things by that. But the point is that I don't subscribe to that at all. I think
Okay.
there's so much more to it. And if people can get their emotions, if they can get to the place that they have control over their emotions and understand where their emotions come from and why they think they're bad with money and why they think about money the way they do, then they can get beyond feeling like they're bad with money.
Sure. So how can someone begin to identify and rewrite their own money story?
I think it begins with intentionality.
Okay.
It's something we don't think about, and we certainly don't talk about it because we've been given messages that you don't talk about money. Outside this family, you don't talk about money if you even talk about it inside this family.
Sure.
And so, where are you supposed to go to get information that will help you have a different relationship with your money? Well, where it starts is with recognizing that you want a different relationship. And therefore, you got to start with, how did I get here? Why do I think about this the way I think about it? What did I grow up hearing? What is my first memory around money? I was literally 4 years old when I heard a radio jingle on the car radio. Remember radio jingles? You may not.
Sure. Of course.
But
No, I'm
it was dial for a loan. And the
right.
second word dial was the phone numbers for the letters, DIAL.
Right.
And by that point, I had been hearing about money for so long that I said, Mommy, if we need money so badly, why don't we just dial for a loan? And in her effort to help me understand our financial situation, she went into a lengthy explanation of having to pay it back and that she couldn't make ends meet as it is. So how could she pay money back and interest? And it was so far beyond what a 4-year-old could understand.
Sure.
But that is my first memory of money. And I remember it vividly. I remember where we were in the car because it was so profound. And I can tell you, it felt so hopeless.
So you've worked with some high-performing individuals and families.
Yes.
Why do even successful people still struggle with money and the concept of money?
Because they grew up in those same households.
Okay. All right.
And they carry that money story, whatever their money story is. Just because they've become successful doesn't change those stories unless they work on changing the story behind it.
So would that be the explanation as well? People who are highly skilled in business or investing or professionals, but still feel stuck or anxious about their personal finance?
I feel like folks like that who you're describing, their brains get hijacked when it comes to money. The same wonderful intellect that is able to allow an entrepreneur or an executive to function highly, to make a good living for their family, sometimes it's never enough. It doesn't matter how much they have. They just keep raising the bar as their careers gets, as they get higher salaries and earnings, they just keep raising the bar so that it's still not enough because they haven't been able to do the internal work to help them understand how to get to the point where it's not about the money. It's about all the underlying sense of success, the internal sense of success.
Can you share with us some of the subtle signs of money anxiety, even in people who are maybe even financially secure?
I'll tell you a story. So I have a very high wealth client, and we were reviewing the family spending, and they were very much living within their means and were able to have all of the wonderful things that wealth brings. And he focused on what they had spent on dry cleaning that month.
Okay.
It was less than $100.
Okay.
This family had a lot of evidence and real money. And yet the dry cleaning at less than $100 was something that he honed in on and said, why are we spending that much on dry cleaning? My guess is he has no idea what dry cleaning costs or even what clothes need dry cleaned versus what can be washed. But for whatever reason, that triggered something. And I think that's the point. We all have triggers.
Absolutely.
And the focus of paying attention to what triggers us helps us see what we need to think about more clearly.
Give us an idea of the ballpark of, let's say, this family that you talked about that focused really on this dry cleaning expense. What's the net worth?
in excess of 100 million.
Okay, so there is something definitely there underlying the psyche of this, that a family that's worth over $100 million is focused on $100 worth of dry cleaning bills.
Exactly.
Wow. You've seen money conflicts are often not really about the money. What do you think they actually are about? This perfect example of this dry cleaning bill.
I think it depends on the individual as to what memories they have,
Mhm.
how they grew up, how their parents talked about or didn't talk about money, how
Sure.
they heard about other family members. Maybe they heard the parents talk about Uncle George, who never had two nickels to rub together. And then there were other just little comments that made it obvious that Uncle George wasn't highly respected in the family.
Mhm.
So it can be something as subtle as that. And certainly as a parent, I know there have been things that I have said that my children remember that I have no recollection of having said.
Okay.
And I think probably most parents have those experiences, and most
Sure.
kids have those experiences.
Sure.
There's just something that, for whatever reason, in the moment, at that point in the child's development, they hear whatever they heard, and it may not even be what the parents said, but it sticks for whatever reason. And so when we come across anything else that remotely looks like that same issue, it triggers something within us. So that therein lies the importance of thinking about what we think about money
Mhm.
and being willing to uncover those hidden messages.
So, can you elaborate or maybe tell us a little bit of insight as to why so many families struggle with having an open conversation about money and their wealth and the family wealth?
There's no model for it.
Right,
Our
right.
parents didn't talk to us about money.
Mhm.
And so many people in what I call the middle generation have parents that they don't know how the parents are set financially for their future. They're afraid to ask, oftentimes, because they may hear that the parents don't have enough saved for their retirement, and they're going to need to help financially at some point.
Mhm.
At the same time that they have their own family, their children that they want to be able to provide for. And maybe what the parents are going to need is going to impact what they can provide for their children. So there, we used to talk about the sandwich generation. There's a financial sandwich generation as well.
Mhm. Wow. So, how do you think couples or families can start having honest, shame-free conversations regarding their money?
My book has something to think about at the end of each chapter. And that is exactly what it is. It's questions to guide, first of all, the reader or the listener to thinking about what they think themselves, and then also how to have conversations and what questions you might raise and how you might go about it. The tone is incredibly important in having a
Mm,
conversation about money.
mm.
I think
Can
some,
you elaborate on that? The tone, just
I'm
because
sorry, the tone.
yeah, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because I get it, but it, please elaborate.
Okay, so there's a real difference in, I've been reading this book about money, and I'm really surprised at all the things that are coming up.
Mhm.
Would you mind if we had a conversation about money? Could we talk about money? And the other person may say yes, hopefully says yes. But then you go on and you say, I'm not looking for advice. I just need somebody to bounce some ideas off of. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and whether my experiences are similar to yours or not and how they're different. So you start it in a very conversational tone, whether that's with a partner or with a personal friend, a good friend,
Mhm.
because you need to ask permission to talk about money because it is such a taboo.
Absolutely. So, how do you inherit beliefs about the money that ultimately affects leadership, decision making, long-term planning? How does that come about with inherited beliefs or opinions that ultimately affects long-term health of a person's thinking on personal finance and financial decisions?
I think it's ancestral. I really
Okay.
think it goes that deep.
Generational?
Absolutely generational.
Hmm.
The women in my family were the breadwinners, clear back to my great grandmother,
Oh, wow. Cool.
and in a time when men just did not leave their families. And my great grandfather left his family, and she was the breadwinner for two children. And then my grandmother was alive in the Depression and having children during the Depression. Her husband left to go work for the Civilian Conservation Corps with the
Aha.
idea that he would send money home, but he didn't. So
Wow.
she worked two jobs. She worked as a school teacher by day and as a waitress by night. So it's no surprise that my mom got pregnant at 15
Mhm.
with no adult in the household for all intents and purposes. And her sister was pretty close to her at the same situation. And so they had to learn to be breadwinners too. And so those roots are so deeply entrenched. And that's why it requires real intention to make the shift for me from scarcity. I mean, I grew up with scarcity on steroids, and to go from scarcity to believing in abundance and that I could have abundance. I never thought I could have a life of abundance. I read Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Living, I think it is. That might not be quite right. But in
Habits,
that,
probably. Yeah.
he described scarcity and the abundance mentality. And scarcity was there's one piece of pie or one pie. And if I take a piece of pie, you don't have enough, there's not enough pie for you.
Sure.
Or if you take a piece of pie, there's not enough for
No,
me.
for you. Right.
And then abundance is if we run out of pie, we'll make more pie. And that was the first time I was in my 40s when I read that book.
Mhm.
And it was the first time the feeling and the emotions that I had experienced my whole life had ever been given words. And it spoke to me so deeply. But even then, I thought there was no way I would ever feel a sense of abundance. And
Mm.
through a lot of self work and classes, I started with a class called Get Right with Money.
Okay.
And with the work I've done, it started uncovering or opening the onion, unpeeling the onion. And I am now at a place, as you can see in my background, I live in
Yes.
Hawaii. And I do live a sense of a belief in abundance and that I can have whatever there is. And if we need more pie, we'll just make more.
So you've helped people through cycles of scarcity, which you've mentioned,
Yes,
prosperity, abundance, loss, and then
absolutely
subsequently
loss.
rebuilding.
Yes.
What lessons stand out from those type of experiences for you?
One of the biggest lessons is that I came to understand it has taken every experience in my life to be where I am today. And I spent decades trying to overcome what I grew up with and to quote fix my problems in with therapy as well as a lot of reading on my own. But I have come to appreciate all of those experiences, even those with my mom that were so difficult, because without those, I wouldn't be who I am today. And because I love
So,
who I am today, then
yeah,
I can appreciate those experiences.
you mentioned growing up with scarcity. How is today's economic uncertainty changing the way that people think about risk and wealth?
Well, I certainly wouldn't be able to answer for everybody,
Yeah, of course.
but I think it is a mindset.
Okay.
So I don't think it's as much about the current environment or the environment of the Depression or the other eras where money was very much of a national issue. But I think it is a sense of belief in yourself.
So
It's go ahead.
what mindset shifts will help people feel more in control regardless of their actual financial situation?
Focusing on it,
Okay.
being intentional about it, thinking
Intention.
about how did I get to the place where this is so terrifying to me? And being willing to look at those things and uncover them. I suggest people write a letter to their money at the beginning of the book.
Interesting. Yes.
And, dear money, I want more of you.
Mhm.
Dear money, you scare the shit out of me, whatever it might be. But then
Sure.
at the end of the book, I also recommend they write another letter to their money so they can have a physical understanding of how their thinking has shifted as a result simply of reading the book. I know it's not that simple, but it sets the stage for them to then take the information and go on with it to whatever place they want to go with it.
Great. That's a great seed to start. If
Yes.
someone's listening that is feeling overwhelmed or disconnected with their finance, what do you think is their first step that they should take?
Pay attention to what you think.
Okay.
Start thinking with what's your first memory of money? That's a good place to begin. And I think once somebody starts with that, then they'll be kind of pulling on a thread and something else will trigger. Talking to other people in your family of origin, whether it be siblings, parents, aunts and uncles, grandparents, if you've got them, find out what is the money story of our family. Why do we never talk about this particular leg of our family?
Mhm.
And you may find that it has a financial reason, but
Sure.
be open to learning more about your own family and how you got where you are.
Sure. What is the one habit or mindset shift that can immediately improve someone's relationship with their money?
Being open to thinking about what you think about money.
Very good. And so, in terms of the questions that I've been asking, I would advise and recommend people that are on this podcast, listening to this podcast, or viewing this podcast to go and get your book. Go and get your book called The Emotional Side of Money. It's got full of wonderful contents that you can start. And I hope that for those people that are on this to definitely go read the book and check it out. And so I put a little pitch in for your book there. What excites you most about the impact your book is having on readers?
The feedback I'm getting that, oh my gosh, I didn't know there were any books out there.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And people who don't know the work I do. I didn't know there was anybody focusing on helping me see the importance of talking to my kids about money or
Mm-hmm.
even talking to my aging parents about money. These are just things I've never thought about. Thank you for opening my eyes. And of course, the book is full of stories of specific instances that come from clients and friends and family of their situations and how they handled something. And then that hopefully will trigger the ideas of maybe your story's not exactly that, but maybe something got triggered. And then you take that and you pay attention to it and they use that as your springboard to try to, obviously this will be edited,
Yes, it will
but
be.
it's your springboard to have
Mhm.
a better relationship with your finances.
Great. And Terry, where can listeners connect with you and learn more about your work and reach out to you?
My website has a lot of information as well as links for buying the book and the audiobook. I recorded the audiobook and it's Tari K. Vickery, author.
Okay.
And I'm on the socials, LinkedIn, as well as Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, fantastic. And for those viewers, it will be on your screen. And for those that are listening to this podcast, it will be at the bottom of the show note. Any final words, Terry, for us?
I just thank you so much for giving me this opportunity because I feel like it's a message that people want to hear, and I
Absolutely.
appreciate the opportunity to share it.
Fantastic. What a great conversation with Tari Vickery. Her perspective on the emotional side of money is something we don't talk about enough. but it plays such a critical and vital role in every financial decision that we all make. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe to Jet Setting Wealth Advisory so that you never miss another conversation. We're here to help you build, protect, and navigate your wealth, no matter where you are on your financial journey. And again, as always, if you find value in this episode, please feel free to share it with colleagues, a friend, a family member, or someone who could benefit from a fresh perspective on their financial life. Until next time, keep your financial future on course. See you on the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you for flying with us on today's episode of Jet Setting Wealth Advisory. If you enjoyed your journey through the fiscal skies with David T.U., don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and keep your financial knowledge soaring. For more insights and personalized advice, visit us at www.dtywealthplanningsolutions.com and connect with David directly